What's up, baby? We are back. We got a little break from the holidays out here, and a whole bunch of shit has gone down. I feel like every time we're halfway through getting one episode produced, some crazy shit happens, and we gotta scrap it and completely move on. That's how I felt. You know, we were doing our 2025 recap, and then I get this notification on my phone late at night. The U.S. has invaded Venezuela and captured Nicolás Maduro, and he's already back on the USS Iwo Jima. And I was like, holy shit. That was fast. It's like the fastest regime change I've ever seen. I don't like regime changes. Sometimes they take 10, 20 years. We're in there fucking around, but Trump gets us in and out in a few hours. It's kind of impressive, actually. It sure beats the alternative, being there for 10 years, you know. All the things we saw in Iraq and Afghanistan and Vietnam, Korea. Again, not all of those are exactly regime changes, but you know what I mean with these foreign wars. So what the hell do we think about this? He went in, he grabbed Maduro, everything should be great, right? But it feels a little anticlimactic to me. So I don't quite understand this. Why do we go in there, grab the president? Okay, he's been the dictator there for like almost 2 decades or something. He's built up this corrupt administration. Okay, all the people around him, all yes men and cronies, and you know, all the kind of evil shit you imagine that communists do and set up in their country. So why did we just take him and now his VP gets to step in and run the country, who's like no better than him? Some woman, I don't even know what the fuck her name is. It doesn't matter. She was one of his stooges, his proteges, and now she's in charge, and we're just supposed to be like, yay, this was so great. I mean, and don't get me wrong, it is kind of cool. Some South American commie dictator talking shit, oppressing his people, doing all sorts of like evil dictator shit, and we go in and kick his door down and fuck him up. That's cool. I like that. I'm not saying that isn't cool. There's like Trump's trying to get his aura back from, you know, the Epstein files, how he, you know, lost it. But we're not going to get into the Epstein stuff right now, but you know what I mean? He's been fading, Trump, amongst his base. You can tell. So he needed to do something big and bold to refocus the media, refocus his base, kind of consolidate everybody back behind some objectively badass shit, right? So, in case you've been under a rock, okay, Venezuela, we invaded them at 1 a.m. Saturday morning, okay, 1 a.m., that was local time, with 150 aircraft. I guess it was a bunch of Apache helicopters and shit. Delta Force gets inserted. They capture the dictator and his wife in his house. He's trying to get to his safe room. They grab him in the middle of the night. The whole operation, 6 minutes, 34 seconds. Pretty badass. Okay. So the military targets in Caracas, the capital of Venezuela, that were struck. Fuerte Tuina. Like that Spanish. I think that was pretty good. That was Venezuela's main military complex and headquarters of its army there in the capital, okay? And then you have the base of Generalissimo Francisco de Miranda, okay, which was an air base inside Caracas that we also struck during this operation. So Donald Trump, you know, for months on Twitter, he's been saber rattling, talking shit to Maduro. Maduro stands up, oh, you know, come get me. I'd like to see you do it, Donald Trump, which was apparently a stupid thing to say, looking back on it, if you're Nicolás Maduro. Trump's been moving naval assets over there for months. What do we got here? I mean, he's been building up naval assets in Puerto Rico, where if you're not great with Caribbean geography, it's pretty close to Venezuela. Most people think that Puerto Rico is like right off the coast of Florida. It's not. That's Cuba, okay? You got to go farther south to get to Puerto Rico, okay? Closer to Venezuela. So we've been moving a bunch of ships over there. We moved the Gerald Ford aircraft carrier strike group down there. All sorts of shit. Maduro thought it was a bluff. And it was after we moved the aircraft carrier there that he's like, you know what? Come get me, Donald Trump. Come do it. He's, you know, calling Donald Trump's bluff. works out great, especially if you're a foreign dictator. So, of course, he gets captured. The Venezuelan military, completely incompetent. There was a picture of the their version of the chief of the army sitting there in front of a big screen, and on there is like the public flight radar tracker app they've got like blown up, like they were trying to track our military on this just like random ass website. Doesn't track our military aircraft, just in case you weren't aware. That website uses transponder. You can just turn that shit off if you're the U.S. military. Okay, so trying to track military flights, don't use the public websites. Doesn't really work well, or at least don't only rely on those. I don't know. Stupid. Okay, completely incompetent. Delta Force marched right in there, took them. We lost no assets, no people, nothing. Flawless operation, as Donald Trump would tell you, right? So then we've got him. We bring him to the U.S. I thought maybe we'd throw him in Gitmo or something, lock him up, throw away the key, that kind of thing. But no, we bring him to New York City, okay? He puts his foot on U.S. soil. Now he's got all sorts of rights. We got to give him lawyers. He's already been charged by some courts, yada, 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 okay? He's going to prison with, who is that cartel? El Chapo. He's in the same prison in Manhattan as El Chapo. Diddy was there. I think Epstein was there at one point. Big prison, I guess. I don't know. Never been to Manhattan. Don't ever really plan on going, but especially not to this prison. But so we got to understand it. Why did Donald Trump do this? I mean, I will admit I thought it was a bluff. I think everybody thought it was a bluff. I didn't go online and dare Donald Trump to come get me. I'm not a dumbass like Maduro, but commies be commies. So this is what Donald Trump said the next day why he felt the need to invade Venezuela over this guy. So he said, Maduro's been indicted by U.S. courts for drug trafficking, corruption. I don't know how a U.S. court indicts a foreign leader for corruption. I don't know if that makes any sense, but apparently they did. Venezuela seized U.S. oil assets in like 1976. That was even before Hugo Chavez's time. Chavez seized some more. I guess Maduro in the early 2000s also seized U.S. oil infrastructure. So what was going on there was these U.S. oil companies were purchasing like leases, land, something like that. They're going there. They're building the wells. They're building refineries. They're doing everything they need, to be an oil company. So then what happened was Venezuela gets taken over by communists, and all those assets that were U.S. owned assets get nationalized by the government, stolen, essentially. So Donald Trump's saying because this happened decades ago, we're going to come get that shit. You better give it back. Maduro said, nope, we're not giving it back. Fuck you. Come take it. To which Donald Trump apparently said, okay. Let's do it. And then the big, as we get a little warmer here, so most of these are bullshit or bullshit adjacent, but Venezuela's got close ties with Russia and China. Okay. 68% of Venezuelan oil sold to China. Okay. The Department of Justice also came out and said that Maduro and other members of the Venezuelan government sold passports, provided protection, and enabled the sale and transportation of hundreds of tons of illegal drugs through their ports, including drugs from several recognized Mexican drug cartels. So essentially, the Venezuelan government was issuing fake passports to drug cartels. So not cool, right? Like, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of Americans have died from drug ODs in the last few years, but it's a lot. That's real. We shouldn't discount that. But I think there's a big reason. A real reason, okay? And they're just kind of dancing around it. Well, he took oil assets here and there. He's been indicted for corruption. Yeah, he sells some oil to China, blah, 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 blah. But what they won't just come right out and say, and Donald Trump kind of says it a little bit, he's mentioned the word oil a bunch of times, but he won't just come out and say, we invaded Venezuela for the oil, even though that's what we did. That is the reason we had to send Delta Force in there to drag Maduro out, okay, in his jammies in the middle of the night. It's because he wasn't playing ball with the oil. So, Donald Trump, here's a quote from him, okay? Like I said, he's been dancing around this, but I want you to listen directly to what he says. And I say, quote, "We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country." Said he was dancing around it. I guess that's a little on the nose up on a second look here. But that was, as Donald Trump says, he weaved that in with a lot of other shit. So it's cut through the bullshit. This is it. Trump said again, it wouldn't cost the U.S. anything to run Venezuela, which he has said that we're going to run it from here on out. We're going to run Venezuela, pointing to the country's oil production, saying the money is coming out of the ground and is very substantial. So remember, this makes sense if you think about it. Donald Trump's a businessman, right? He saw a good deal. He says, hey, we're trying to get all this oil from the Middle East. That's a long ways away. It's expensive to ship it here. Okay. Oil industry's a commodity industry. Okay. It's all about the margins, baby. So, so he says he sees this oil, okay, this oil-rich country that's in our hemisphere, would be really easy to ship the oil here. We already ship some Venezuelan oil here, okay? But he says, hey, they're selling it to China, shipping it all the way there. That oil should be coming here to the United States for cheap. And we invested in that infrastructure in the 70s. That's our oil. They need to stop selling it to the goddamn Chinese. So here's how Trump sees it. It's a win-win for everybody, okay? He gets to take out a rival commie who's been, taunting him, doing all that kind of shit, okay? He gets to flex his military might because he's got enemies, all over the world that could really use some reminding that we will go drag them out of their presidential palaces from anywhere in the world. We don't care. We're the U.S. We do what we want. And then on top of that, the American people can get a good deal, get some cheaper gas, just like he promised, right? He's trying to think outside the box. He thinks he's a real genius for that one. As if no one's ever thought of invading a poor third world country so Americans can have cheaper oil. That is a brand new idea thought of by Donald Trump himself. No one's ever done that before. So he later tells reporters this too. We're going to be taking out a tremendous amount of wealth from the ground, and that wealth is going to the people of Venezuela and from people outside of Venezuela that used to be in Venezuela. And it goes also to the United States of America in the form of reimbursement for damages caused to us by that country. And quote, doesn't make a lot of sense, but I think what he's saying there is we're taking the oil. We're not just like buying it. Okay. We're not paying a premium to Venezuelan oil lords. Nope. We're going to be taking it ourselves. We're going to send Exxon down there. They're going to pull the oil out of the ground and pass the savings on to you and me. So this is all great, right? Oh, I forgot. There's a fourth winner here. The people of Venezuela hate Maduro. He's a commie dictator. They're starving. I read it was like 2 years ago, the average Venezuelan lost 20 pounds because they were starving. They're eating their cats and dogs, all sorts of crazy stuff, which is terrible, but inevitably happens in every socialist country, right? So if we go in there and drag Maduro out, everybody's going to be a winner. Okay, that was the story sold to Donald Trump. And he's a businessman, so it's a great deal. Of course he did it. So Donald Trump, again, wants to undercut China, get rid of one of their oil producers. And man, I guess it's just, you can kind of see as I lay this out, how Donald Trump was convinced, right? If all you've done your whole life is think about how can I get a good deal on something, this could be a little enticing. Plus, you get to feel powerful, man. Can you imagine getting to give the go to go drag some asshole dictator out of his bed, okay? And then you see the millions of people afterwards the next day out in the streets in Venezuela celebrating, of course, because their dictator just got his ass handed to him by the Americans for talking shit. You gotta love it, right? And there are a couple side reasons here people have been talking about. I just want to mention them real quick, just, so we can acknowledge them. People want to, overplay these, I think, but they're worth a little mention here. The biggest one is that Donald Trump wanted to show that he will go head slap some stupid dictator anytime he feels like it. If you want to walk around your, shitty little country, if you're, we'll make up a country, we'll call it Iran. You want to be the dictator of a country like that, walk around and act like you're super cool and talk shit. Donald Trump says, well, I'm going to make an example out of somebody just like you. So he moves all the naval assets in. Oh, it's a bluff. He's not going to do anything. Oh, it's a bluff. It's a bluff. And then all of a sudden, Delta Force is standing there tucking you in the middle of the night. So there was that. Okay. Now he has a lot more credibility on the world stage for pushing these little countries around. And there's also this kind of like historical thing. He called it the Monroe Doctrine. So like the Monroe Doctrine was where the United States decided that nobody else was going to interfere in the Western Hemisphere. Okay, all the European powers had been kicked out of the hemisphere. China and Japan weren't really messing around here back in those days. And so we said, okay, the United States dominates the Western Hemisphere. Nobody else gets to come in. That's the Monroe Doctrine. Okay. If you try and colonize, Chile or something, America's going to go down there and kick you out. So now Donald Trump, he gets to feel historically important. He says, we're reinstituting the Monroe Doctrine. We're going to call it the Dunroe Doctrine. Because of course he's got branding all lined up for it already. He's Donald Trump. And then the other one I've been hearing people talk about is Marco Rubio. Okay. The Secretary of State, National Security Advisor, National Archivist, you name it. He's got a ton of different titles. The man that never sleeps. Okay. Former Senator Marco Rubio. His family's famously from Cuba. He despises Latin American communism. It drove his family out of their home country. They haven't returned since. And so he's got this like personal crusade where he is going to rid Southern America, the Caribbean, of these commies. Okay. He's very against these people being in charge, and he's okay with flexing some American muscle, kicking some ass to make it happen. Okay. So that's the main guy in Donald Trump's ear pitching you the story that I was pitching earlier. Okay. And it seems that things have worked out so far. The country didn't collapse, but it's because so now let's get into the analysis of it a little bit. Okay. There's two big points I want to talk about. The first one is that we didn't decapitate the government. We just took this one guy out. The VP stepped up and their government's cruising right along. I mean, maybe this woman can hold it together. Maybe she can't. There's been talk that maybe she's a CIA asset, and this was the whole point. You get rid of Maduro. CIA makes a deal with the second person in charge. You put her in, okay, and then she's kind of like a U.S. puppet. She owes the U.S. her power. That's kind of the idea here. Just some reports here and there. Donald Trump hasn't come out and said that, but you kind of hope that's the case. Why would you just go take one man when the country has a legit hierarchy set up to succeed a president? Anything could happen to a president. Maduro's fat. He could have keeled over and died of a heart attack, 2 days before this operation. They had a succession plan in place. So why didn't we get the rest of his top government officials? Unless a deal was already made in the background. I don't know. Just speculation. It just seems anticlimactic, though. We grabbed him, and I don't understand. Donald Trump has, I just read you those quotes. He said, U.S. companies are going to be taking tremendous amounts of wealth out of the ground. Okay, so how do we go from pulling Maduro out of his bed in the middle of the night? Okay, that's like step one. Okay. Step two, blank. Step three, tremendous amounts of wealth coming into the United States. But that step two is like kind of important, right? Like that famous South Park with the gnomes. Like step one, I think it's like collect underwear. Step two, question mark. Step three, profit. That seems to be Donald Trump's strategy in Venezuela right now. Like we're missing a pretty big chunk. Okay, even by his own standards, even if you're going, you agree with Donald Trump that you want to take the Venezuelan oil and you think they're going to go along with that and it's going to be great. Okay, cool. Yeah. How do we get there from where we're at right now? This plan seems kind of half-baked in its current state. Okay. And so that's the first point. And the second point is that, and it kind of relies on you, thinking the first point is still true, even though everything went perfectly fine. Okay. The second point is that this was a huge gamble. Okay. We're not leaving boots on the ground in Venezuela right now. It seems that we've, grabbed the dictator. We're out of there. There's no U.S. soldiers in Venezuela right now anymore. We were just there for a few hours. We came back. Well, what if something had happened during this operation? We had 150 aircraft. What if one of them crashed? What if one of them shot down or one of those Delta Force guys was shot and killed? So now you have dead Americans. What would Donald Trump have done then? I think he would have had no choice but to launch like a full-scale invasion, right? That seems to be kind of what if this operation had completely failed? Like all of the aircraft are taken out. The extraction team was all killed or captured, and now you've got like another version of the Iran hostage crisis. What the hell would we have done? In another world, we're in a full-scale war with Venezuela right now. Something gets screwed up there. Okay, even a Black Hawk Down scenario where just one chopper goes down or two choppers go down, and a couple survivors are captured, and now what? We're not just going to leave them there. We're not going to exchange the dictator for some of those soldiers. That's not what we do. So what would we have done? My point is this was incredibly risky. Okay, we risked full-scale war for I'm not sure what we've gotten out of this yet. I mean, we get to try him and feel good about it. Yay, the Venezuelan people just exchanged one dictator for another. Yay. Okay. I mean, I see how things could go better, I guess. If again, maybe they're hiding something and this new lady that's running Venezuela is a CIA plant. Okay, fine. But clue us in a little bit here, give us a little something. It's the whole thing seems, it went as well as it possibly could have. And yet it still seems half-baked. I'm not sure the juice was worth the squeeze here. And I'm happy to be wrong. I hope I'm corrected. I hope that they have a free election here in the next 2 months. The lady that won the Nobel Prize or somebody else that's, pro-democracy wins and Venezuela turns into this thriving democracy. But even then, they're not just going to hand over all their oil. So I don't really know what we get out of it. It doesn't seem America first. All these adventures trying to get foreign oil never seem to work out like we want them to. But again, I'm open to being wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I would love this to be a great thing for the United States. I'm not rooting for us to lose or anything like that. But this seemed really, really risky. And I'm worried that it's going to be like, when you watch like a 6th grade basketball game and that one kid that never passes the ball, he always wants to shoot. He gets the ball first possession of the game. He just throws it up from 3-point range. And he just drains it. And you're like, oh shit. That was the worst thing that could have happened. Because now that kid thinks it's a good idea. Because the dumb thing he did happened to work out. And now he's going to launch 15 more of them. None of them are going to go in. And it costs his team more in the long run because he succeeded to begin with and thought his ideas were good. I'm worried that's what we got here, that this whole thing went off flawlessly. And now Donald Trump's going to, waltz around the world deposing every, 2-bit dictator that realistically deserves it, but could get us in some really bad situations, just like what happened in Somalia in the 90s with Black Hawk Down. Total just U.S. adventurism, screwing around in some country we should have never been in. Americans got killed and taken hostage over it. So, I don't want to be a downer. Everyone that says, see, Donald Trump knows what he's doing is, pointing to this as a good thing. All the non-interventionists are, being raked across the coals. See, you guys are, you're, alarmicans or whatever it is that, you guys love Nicolás Maduro and communism. You want this, you want all these evil people in charge. Nope, not at all. But what I do want is one, declaration of war by Congress if we're going to go into, invade other countries. Number two, okay, a clear plan. I want somebody to come out and say, we're going to launch this invasion, and maybe not say like, we're going to invade this specific country. I know we did some strikes on Nigeria, but we should have some sort of clear procedure for if we launch one of these special military operations, okay, in these foreign countries, and it goes badly, what are we going to do? Because it may get us dragged into a lot bigger war than we were expecting. Okay. I just don't want that to happen, okay? We get cheap oil out of this, great, fantastic. We undercut China, great. We free the Venezuelan people, awesome. But I'm an America first guy. So let's just make sure we got all our bases covered. We're not rolling the dice too much. That's it. That's all I'm saying. And I hope we get to see the rest of this plan unfold here, because right now it doesn't seem like we did a whole lot. So that's it. That's my response to this whole Venezuelan adventure. So we'll see it. I hope Maduro gets convicted, spends the rest of his life in prison. That asshole deserves it. Venezuelan people are happy to see him go, then so am I. Okay, that's a good thing. But maybe we don't need to be the world's hall monitor. That's it. Okay. Have a good one, guys.